Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it an old computer mouse from the 90s? No. This is the Game Boy player for the GameCube. Gaslighting isn't real. You're just going crazy. Oh, I see what's happening. You're thinking of the Nintendo one. Well, what about the Daytel Advanced Game Port? Did you ever hear about this? I certainly didn't. This right here is the poor man's Game Boy player for the GameCube. This cost me £50 on eBay. Is it any good? I have no idea. It came with just the disc and the doohickey. Unfortunately, I don't have the box. But I thought, now that I've got this fancy GameCube thing with the HDMI out the back, and I've got a capture card, we should take a look at this and see if it's any good. For now, and to turn it on and just test it right this very second, I have a monitor with a really short cable that's also reflecting light horribly. So that's good. So what I'm gonna do for now, just so that we can take a very quick look, is I'm gonna use this monitor, which I think is basically an iPad screen with some sort of a driver in the back that you can plug HDMI into and whatnot. This is the doohickey. Here's the disc. This is my modded Panasonic Q, so with the 3D printed tray. So that's gonna sit in there like that. We're gonna close this. Lovely, all going very well. Before we carry on, I just want to say a massive thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. PCBWay have been supporting my channel for years, and they wanted me to show you around their website at some of the awesome stuff that they do. So obviously, they're called PCBWay. They can manufacture every single type of PCB you can imagine and can't imagine, like a flexible or rigid flexible PCB, whatever in the world that is. 87,000 orders in the last 30 days. That is insane. And if you go down here to some of the reviews from customers, look at this person. They've used it to make some sort of an eye for something. But look at the difference between a 3D printed version and one that PCBWay can make you using their fantastic service. Now, very soon, I'm actually going to have to use PCBWay myself to fix the Panasonic Q in this video, because this right here is the magnet that goes in the CD mechanism, which apparently is at risk of just exploding and then going everywhere inside. So this person, Retro Game Revival, has made this file. And if you look right here, order through a service like PCBWay. So it's very simple. You just download it, and it's free to do, of course. And then you come over to PCBWay's website and you can go to 3D printing. It's then going to open up a page where you can drag and drop the file that you've just downloaded into the site. And you can select resin. It's already selected. Fill out the rest of the form. And before you know it, it's going to arrive at your door perfect. PCBWay are awesome. They are much loved by the community and myself. Please check them out in the description below. Back to the video. There it is, Advanced Game Port 2004 Daytel. A button. Start button. Oh, I've got to plug it in. Plug it into slot B for some reason, slot 2, slot B, because the modded Panasonic just gets very unhappy if that's in when you turn it on. So there's two options. We've got create stunning cheats for your Game Boy Advance games. What is that? Why is the screen black? We're off to a great start. Ooh. Right, okay, so this also acts as a cheat device. So you can insert a game and then you can start doing all of these random cheats. Wow. So I've turned it off and on again because we were stuck and there didn't seem to be a way out. Let's go onto here and see what the interface is like, and then we're going to plug it into the Elgato. Here we go. Let's now plug in this, because it says select game to play, press A to continue. So that's going to go in, and then we're going to press, oh, okay, so we can move the screen up and down with this. Interesting. Press A to continue. Loading. Now, one thing I thought would be fun is that this is the SpongeBob SquarePants Game Boy Advance video cartridge. Now, the thing about this is that normally it says when you plug it in, not compatible with the Nintendo GameCube adapter. for the Game Boy. The Game Boy player for the GameCube. So if we can plug this into here and watch SpongeBob on the TV, wow. I know, riveting. So we can, oh look, so if we press the Z button, we could add our codes, but there's no codes selected. So that's interesting. And you can also press X to take a snapshot. So that's also very cool. Oh, right and left shoulder buttons, zoom it in, and then that is where we can use our C stick to move up and down. So look, you can actually basically go all the way in and have full screen Game Boy. So, I mean, this doesn't have a speaker, so this is probably where we're just gonna have to plug it into the Elgato. But, I mean, everything seems to be working really well. Pretty expected. So there doesn't really seem to be a huge amount. Oh look, GBASP. Oh wow, so you can go through different colors here. So you got GBA color setting, and this is just by pressing the Z button. GBA SP color setting, which is washed out, probably to imitate the front light. And then you've got the Game Boy Player color setting. So that's quite interesting. It seems like the Game Boy Player gives you kind of the most amount of contrast. Does the L button do anything on its own? No. So you've basically got this button, which is for the codes, which is the Z, and then you can press X to take a snapshot, and then you can close that again by pressing B, and then you've got the zoom in and out, which is done by pressing the Z and then using your left and right, and that moves in and out, and then you can use the C stick to go up and down. So there is actually a few bits, but there's not a great deal in the way of like menus and options, unless there's a whole button combination that I'm not aware of, but I don't have the manual, so we're just sort of trialing stuff here. To carry on, I think we need to plug it into my computer. So everything is now hooked up to my computer, and we are recording straight out of the HDMI dongle into my Elgato. So it looks pretty epic. I'm gonna have to do some recording of the actual like original Game Boy player just to see what differences there are, because currently this kind of looks fine, you know? It's like, it looks fine. The one thing I will say is the audio is not quite right. Now that's something that I'm not listening to right now, but I've done a little bit of testing, and this one is like a slightly lower pitch, which is a little bit weird. I think we might have to do like a side-by-side comparison of the speed of the intro of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 to work out if maybe there's an actual speed issue with the game, or if the sound is just like keyed down. I know these are sorts of like minor issues. I always forget about that and I jump out like an idiot. I know these are sort of like minor nitpicky issues, but it's going to be something that some people are going to be interested in. One thing I have to say though, I mean, I really, how do I do this again? You have to, do you just walk? Yes, that's it. I am pretty impressed with this. I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty impressed with it. To think that like you can plug a Game Boy cartridge into the memory card slot of a GameCube and play the Game Boy cartridges on your GameCube. Can you actually imagine that? Like back in the day, to be able to just play your Game Boy games on your TV, and obviously, yeah, the Nintendo one was around and like was brilliant and everybody had it, but this is still cool. Through the game, I haven't played this game in so long, I hardly remember what I'm doing, but through the memory slot into the GameCube. That's a sick thing. That is actually a sick thing. Look at this little setup that I've got going on my floor right now. It is a really cool thing. Let's put it on full screen just to see if anybody can notice any differences. Oh no! It's fine, isn't it? It's bloody fine. That's my review. That is my review, is that it is, in fact, fine. I can't say the same about my gameplay. That is a lot less fine. I'm sorry. Right, enough of that. I might die now. In the game, let's have a look at the side-by-side comparison. Shit. let's try and make sense of all of that. So basically, the game port looks as though it plays slower, but also has a higher pitched sound than the original Nintendo version of the Game Boy player. Also, it looks like the quality out of this is slightly different. I would actually say that this looks sharper, although I'm sure there's going to be a discussion in the comments about other people who are much better at picking out those sorts of details than I am. But I would say it looks a little bit sharper. So it's sharper, it's slower, and it's higher pitched. Now, it's kind of irrelevant because this video is very much about this, but if you do have a Game Boy player for the GameCube and your GameCube is modded with Pico Boot, you can use Game Boy Interface, which uses sort of a bit of a gel between a bit of emulation and the obviously hardware that is actually in the Game Boy player itself, and comes out with this. Which by far sounds and looks the best. But obviously this video is about this. Now, I think we probably could open this up and see inside a bunch of sort of surface mount components that I'm sure pretty much make up a Game Boy Advance. Now, I don't know the terminology of all of this stuff very well, but it would seem to me like it's possibly going to be due to some sort of a clock speed. So if we take a little look in here, which I'm sure people would probably want to see anyway, it is not only extremely empty, I also have absolutely no idea what I'm looking at. So that's helpful, isn't it? But I'm sure some of the tech wizards of the world will be interested in that. And as for the Game Boy video cartridges, well, let's take a quick look. My theory was that anything preventing this from playing on the Game Boy player was going to be in the software of the Game Boy player itself, so I thought this would work, but nothing happens. The screen just stays white. And if it doesn't register that the game is even plugged in, you don't even get this far. So it definitely was picking up that there was a game inside. It just doesn't work at all. So, there we have it. That is going to conclude this video. It's a little bit crap, but it does the job. And don't forget as well that this is also a cheap device. So if that meant something to you when you were younger or now and you would want to buy this, that is obviously something that the original Nintendo version doesn't have. You'd have to buy a separate thing for that. So yeah, it could be used as a little cheating in your GameCube, watch on your TV while you cheat the system type thing, which is, I suppose, cool for some people. There we go. What a weird little thing. Thanks for watching. Bye.